All right, good evening, good morning, and welcome back to the sixth podcast. We're on episode number 2 now. First one was pretty well received, so thank you everybody who tuned in and listened to that. It was a lot of fun to record, and we'll try and keep on track from now on. Today's a lot more expansive, a bit more of a special one. We're doing a event, get to know the team kind of episode. The first one is looking into the United European Community, team members and everything like that. It's a very big event, runs twice a week. Great bunch of guys. If you're European or American, there's no distinguished. You don't have to be European to attend this event. So please do listen in and consider coming on down if it sounds good. So before we start, we'll go through and have everybody introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what unit you represent. If you want to tell us where your interest in the Civil War comes from as well, please do. And just to keep our little ongoing leaderboard running, if you can tell us how many hours you have, or like a ballpark figure if you don't know exactly, that would be great as well. So we'll go top to bottom. Hogg, if you want to kick off, mate.
Yeah, hi. My name's Hogg. I represent the 8th Florida in War Rights. I've been playing for quite a while, so hopefully that means my 2,250 hours in the game isn't too embarrassing for me to have. But yeah, my interest in the Civil War started basically when I was a kid. Watched the Gettysburg movie when I was a little kid, and yeah, ever since then I've been interested in the Civil War, and War Rights just gives you the avenue to kind of, play into that and enjoy it, really.
Absolutely, probably one of the best games for immersion and role play in that sense. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah, and also I've been able to go over to Antietam. Joe over, I actually went and visited Antietam with him, so that wouldn't have happened without War Rights. So that was great.
Absolutely. You can actually see Hogg on Jehovah's channel in a couple of videos if anybody's interested. I'll leave a link to
Yeah,
Jehovah
yeah.
down below too. So
Yeah, definitely don't go and watch the videos of me talking.
No, you're beautiful, Hogg. Don't anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah, our regiment has already memed the hell out of those videos already, so yeah.
There you go. Anyways, on to Danny.
Yeah, hi. My name is Danny, or Danny, not Daddy, please.
Oops, my bad.
Danny.
Daddy.
Yeah, Danny Fritz. I represent the 8th Florida alongside the Hawk. I got only 1,000 hours during my 5 years of experience with the game. This might sound weird, but the interest in Civil War actually started with War of Rights, because I've never been too much of a history guy when it comes to this period, like 19th century. And when I saw War of Rights, I was like, hey, this looks kind of fun. And it was from American Civil War. When I bought the game in 2019, I pretty much got into the Civil War, not into the big aspects, but I kind of dived into the rabbit hole more than ever and watched a couple of movies, Gettysburg, Gods and Generals, stuff like that, and I've been enjoying it ever since.
Yeah, I think that's a common theme in War of Rights. People either watch Gettysburg, then play the game, or they play the game, then watch Gettysburg. It's always one or the other. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Lemuel.
Yeah, hi. I think this is actually going to be a bit of a revelation to most people. I think no one has actually ever heard the full name that I run by in War of Rights and in general. So my name in this case is Lemuel Dennis Todd, mostly known as Lemuel, or Lemuel by those individuals
Lemuel.
who continuously fail to mispronounce it. And I am the current commanding officer of Company A, 18th Regiment, North Carolina. The German Volunteers, our name. The name is, as we say, program, mostly Germans. We've been out and about for quite some time. I think originally the company started in 2016. 2016. I only have a meager 1,000 hours in the game itself. Have had much experience leading companies in previous iterations of Civil War games and other ones in general. So we're talking North and South, Battle Cry of Freedom, Scourge of War, and all of those fun games. How I got interested in the Civil War in general is always a bit of a weird one. I found a CD of the 2nd South Carolina String Band in a pawn shop in Germany, and very much enjoyed the music, got into that, and then I moved to the States for voluntary service for 3 years at the end of it all. Got really into it there and joined a reenactment unit. Came back, continued with War of Rights, and started a reenactment unit now here. So it's been a good time. It's been a good time.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually never knew that. So that's cool. It's also interesting. A lot of the guys, and you'll hear from the guys here today, but a lot wider in the European community as well, as you can expect from the nature of being European. A lot of these guys have a lot of background in things outside of the Civil War. Like, I can't even count how many people are involved in Napoleonic era stuff and things like that in the UEC.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's definitely a transferable interest in, a dedication to like the immersiveness and stuff that you can get with this game and historical accuracy that you'll see in the UEC especially. So yeah, awesome. Thanks, Lemuel. Wesley, you're next, sir.
Hello, I'm James Wesley. I've been playing War of Rights since it originated, since the dawn of time, as I like to say.
How many years are we on, Wesley? How many years?
Well, I mean, was it 2024? Was it 10 years or so now
10
since
years,
it came out? Previously, I played Mountain Blade North and South and all that sort of stuff before it came out. I'm only on about 817 hours. Mainly because I have a busy life these days, which just means I can't always get to events. But what was the other questions? How do I get into the Civil War? Well, I have a very similar story to Hogg. I watched Gettysburg when I was like 11, and then became fascinated with sort of black powder games like Mountain Blade. And then Mountain Blade led on to North and South, and then led on to sort of War of Rights, which was a great jump up to sort of a Civil War simulation. So really enjoyed that. I lead the 88th New York. I'm captain and commander of the 88th New York A and B company. So yeah, did I miss anything on that?
Well, you're representing the union today, so yeah.
I am. Yes, me and Fipsht.
We have kept it proportionate. The UEC is a little CSA heavy, so we have kind of
little,
kept it in
yeah.
line.
Just a little bit.
I'm here to balance the books. And last but definitely by no means least, because he has the best voice since Morgan Freeman, Fip.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, mate. I am Fipsht. I'm First Lieutenant in the 88th New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment, and I'm Commanding Officer of A Company thereof. I have 666 hours Q Omen music in War of Rights. And I also only got my interest in the American Civil War through War of Rights. That was really my way in. I studied ancient history at university. My partner at the time studied ancient and medieval. Read up a bit on modern history once we got out, but this was always a big hole. And it was only when I got involved with the re-enactment server as a historian journalist, writing about specific battles, and I needed to research it, and that's how it educated me, really. I've since become more and more interested as time goes by, really.
Absolutely. Of course, reenactment events, that's something which the UEC is a massive part of. Together with HO, we try and get out some big and wonderful events for everybody to see every year, but I'm sure that's going to come up at some point later, so we'll skip over that for now.
Not at all.
But before we do like a deep dive into the UEC, I thought I'd just do a couple more questions, maybe if a few of you could answer each one. Kind of in keeping with the first episode, we had a few kind of favorite things that you guys like in War of Rights. Especially from the UEC perspective, because I know in the UEC events we don't always play all of the maps and stuff, so I'd be very interested to hear your answer to a couple of these. So if anybody wants to go for the first one, which is definitely my potentially most interesting question, is do you have a favorite map or maps in War of Rights?
Can I be biased?
You can indeed.
Viper Farm. And not only because there's 8 Florida, but just because it combines a lot of aspects of War of Rights. Close quarter combat, long range battles as well, if you're not going to charge with bayonet, of course, every single time. It combines the close range artillery, long range artillery, you have a small hill, defile, you have rocks, you have stone wall as well, you have cornfield, snake fences all around, and you don't need to. Well, the spawns are not that far away, so either as a Union or CSA, if you spawn on the main spawn, you do not need to run like fucking 20 kilometers or so just to get back to the fray. So
Yeah, for sure.
that's good.
Yeah, I think one thing I really like about that one is that, okay, you look at Piper Farm and you're like, the terrain probably favours the Rebel team defending quite a lot, but the amount of tickets they have, you really have to play like perfectly if you want to win that game, right? Like, if they get you down to breaking, it's really tough to like finish that. So yeah, it's an exciting one, I think.
I think that's one of my I said it on the last episode actually. That's one of my best memories of an event was when I played CSA with you guys actually in the 8th Florida. I remember we were like right next to each other for most of that battle. And that was one of my probably favourite ever single events in War of Rights was when we played CSA Piper Farm. It was neck and neck pretty much the whole game. I think we just lost it in the end, literally in like the final seconds, but yeah, what a game. It's a really good map as well, you're right. I said on the last episode, I think whenever a map has an artillery set on both sides and a number of ways you can approach it, it always tends to be a much better map. So yeah, Piper Farm's definitely up there. Anybody else have one they want to throw out there?
Yeah, sure.
Bloody Lane.
All the 88 saying Bloody Lane. I can't think why. Fox said it last time.
maybe I can add some fun trivia on that. Personally, some of my favorite maps are some of the more strange ones, I guess. Well, not necessarily strange ones. I'm a very big fan of Schoolhouse Ridge. For me, it perfectly encapsulates the desperation of having to hold a very difficult objective, an elongated objective in essence. And for me, it's got pretty much everything. It has got different elevations that you can use to your advantage or disadvantage. You've got open areas. You've got a wooded area for which Confederates can have a very enjoyable Chancellorsville moment in assailing the Union to their front. And I love this map from both sides. I don't know why. A lot of people hate it from the Union perspective, and I can see it, but still one of my favorite ones. And maybe to no one's surprise, because I keep voicing it, I adore the South Mountain maps. I adore them. I don't know why. It's mostly probably because of the very different terrain to what is usually present in American Civil War battles. So a lot of flat fields and low-sloped hills, in essence. And here you're literally fighting in the mountains, essentially. And I think there's just something quite, magical about the compactness of it all, in essence. If you basically zoom across the battlefield in like the narration after each fight is over, and you see most of the battlefield, and I know what happened there historically. I know we're going to be fighting there in just a moment, and it's going to be desperate. I think that just really hits home for me. Yeah. None of the maps where the 18th North Carolina is actually present on, because there's like, what? 1, 2, and they're both garbage.
Fair enough. I do like Colquitt's defense in the South Mountain rotation. That's always a very fun one to play from either side.
It's a very good one. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Fip, were you going to say a different one other than Bloody Lane, or were you going to agree with the 88th consensus?
No, well, I do like Bloody Lane, to be fair. I generally don't recall them all by name specifically, and I don't really know them until I'm there, so I tend to sort of be more nebulous with it, where I don't like the ones with bridges, river crossing, and Burnside.
That's a fair assumption, yeah.
And I prefer trees and rocks to fences and walls, so yeah, wherever I got my trees and rocks, I'm happy, so... That's basically
you like the natural fields. That's fine.
Yeah,
you don't like man-made crap.
I tend to like things that actually stop bullets. To be fair.
Oh, well, that's reasonable. Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, what do you guys think about the Conquest contention maps? Like, some of them are great. I think the is it Farmlands is the Bloody Lane Piper Farm contention map. I think that's a good one. And then also the contention map with Hagerstown Turnpike, Miller Cornfield, Dunker Church. I think those ones are both pretty nice. So
yeah, I think the first one you said is Framing, or was it Farm Defense Lines?
Yeah.
Farmland's the second one. They're both pretty nice actually, especially because the artillery positions aren't crap, which you get on some of the maps. They're just in nonsensical places.
I think from an infantryman perspective, I absolutely adore what's it called? Forest Stream. The map basically placed behind the Rohrbach Bridge.
Oh yes,
That one I adore because it has basically urban fighting in the sense of you're fighting through a farm and its orchards. You're fighting through the thicket of a forest, and you're fighting through the open glades with a lovely little stream in between it. So it has a lot of variety to it.
Yeah,
I enjoy that one, but mostly,
Has trees.
It's just the balance of it all, you know. It has trees, exactly. Thank you.
yeah. I think that those maps are going to come into their own when they can increase the amount of players on the servers. I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was going to say the player count really. Yeah, the player count really will need increasing.
I think like contention kind of mitigates that as the game mode. I think that suits those maps the best. But I'm kind of looking forward to bigger servers, and I think that'll make Conquest a lot better as well.
Absolutely.
And also, just a quick word on those bigger servers for sure. Like, we have 400 players ready in the UEC, in HRE as well, in many other events. If any dev happens to be listening to this, please give. We would very much appreciate. Not to even mention reenactment events.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked yesterday what our average is, and I think on Fridays we get 450 Hogg?
Yeah.
And on Saturdays, like 370 to 400. So I'm like, give larger server, please.
Yeah, we're ready for it as well. Like, they've tested it a number of times. I feel like the last few times it was pretty smooth. I don't know how much longer it will be, but
the problem is that the optimization, like if you see, let's just say hypothetically that 400 people decide that they will ban a charge one spot on the map. I'm sure the server will be fucking overloaded, and it will crash. Like if you remember when we get the 300 people server, I think during the first couple of weeks until they hotfixed it somehow. Whenever there was a big charge, which happened quite often, it crashed several times. So we got kind of frustrated. And
I'm going to be the first person, actually not the first person, I'm going to be the one person to actually voice confidence in their ability, considering where we started. I mean, I don't know if you people remember like the good old days of I'm going to skirmish with 10, 15 people on the fucking, what's it called, on the drill camp, because that's the only thing we've had. To see what's going on with my language today. Goddamn. To see it come this far with 300 people running pretty smoothly at very, very, very good looking, graphical settings. I'm confident that, with time, they will be able to surprise us on that front.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to remember, even after all these years, they're still an incredibly small team. So the fact that they are able to do what they do is pretty good in my eyes.
I mean, one thing I would say is that we did have that zombie event recently, right? And I think there was a lot of moving parts with that, right? There was a lot of zombies in one area, right? So maybe that's like less to do with the lag, but I don't know. I'm not a technical guy, so.
Yeah, for sure. It's come a long way. I think when I started playing, I just missed the time when it was only drill camp. I started playing fairly soon after that. So my first memories are 150-man servers, like grand campaign, having to split into 4 different servers just to play an event.
Yeah.
And, it was, it was...
You missed the good old...
Fighting beyond Burnside Bridge.
Yes.
Fighting beyond Burnside Bridge with 50 players on the server. They're good old days.
It would still lag when everyone crossed the bridge as well.
Yeah. I used to remember that. Freeze the game. Oh, then across the bridge.
All right. I've got... I don't know how this one will go, because obviously UEC guys. So maybe I could ask for 2 answers here. If you want to give a UEC unit and maybe a non-UEC unit as your second one, is there a unit in the community, either within UEC or any other events that you attend, that you particularly like playing either with or against as allies or opponents?
Is there a limit of how many units can you make?
You can try a bunch out there. This isn't like a choose one. You can honorable mention a whole load of people if you like. Like, that's all good.
Well, first is 6 New York, obviously. We even had a discussion in the UEC itself, like why does not the E6 New York actually join the UEC?
Oh, that old chestnut. Okay.
Oh, we're
Oh, no.
definitely bringing this up, my friend. We're
Oh,
definitely
no.
bringing it up.
And who else is there? Let's see. I mean 88, but they recently joined the UEC unit, like the UEC overall. So
Wow, none of us.
well, no, is there any other unit? Well, German Corps, obviously.
Yeah.
They're not part of the UEC, but they're doing pretty well. They're playing up to the UEC standard. They were once part of the UEC, I believe, at least. At least part of the German Corps. German
They were
volunteers.
part.
New York,
Some of their units were part of the German volunteers. Others basically split off from various units in the German volunteers and made their own thing. I don't think they ever were part of the UEC, probably because of that split.
It's a
Yeah,
simple
but
time, right?
yeah, but they would be. But German Corps units associated with them, and then 6 New York and 88 recently, well, quite recently, joined the UEC. So these 3 units, basically, if I can call it like that, non-UEC.
Yeah, German Corps are great. I always love because they are very. In fact, you know what? They fit the UEC playstyle pretty much perfectly as well. Like, I know they're not in the UEC, but they do play pretty much exactly how,
Up to the
UEC
standard
does,
of the
so-
UEC, like
Exactly,
more than
yeah.
standard.
Yeah, I think like because they were from like the TGV days, like before we had the UEC, where it was like, even more like organized and regimented than it is even now with the UEC. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Also,
Um,
I was quite surprised when you obviously started as a 50 years under Johnson. Whenever Johnson was leading, you could see it. You could see the huge difference of leading by Johnson and you. And whenever you led, we were always like, "Hey, these guys are actually playing up to the UEC standard. What the fuck is going on?" Then obviously you formed the 4th Pennsylvania, I think.
Yeah, well,
After
we had a
the
brief gap in the middle. We had the 6th US.
yeah, and
Yeah.
once you took it with your guys like Ibi and a few others, that's when we noticed like really like these guys are actually playing more than up to the UEC standard. Like you're playing like a UEC unit, and UEC units are strict on the rules. We are trying to be the example for the others, and you're doing it more than well, in my opinion, at least. Like the German Corps.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's always a bit of a funny one because obviously the UEC and the events and the battles we have in War of Ice specifically, they don't really cater to non-infantry units too well. So we do our best with cav tactics and everything to do that. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. We try and keep it organized as much as possible for UEC. We normally have a good number of people to form 2 ranks and keep at it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's why UEC is our most attended event ever, and it probably will change for a long time. So
I mean, it's not only about like forming double ranks or sticking to the rules, but you're following the example of being like a good unit. Like I don't think we ever had a problem with you. Like I don't think we ever have any sort of record of you breaking any rules, having Rambos, anything like that. And that's not often that this happens with any unit in the UEC.
because
So
I scream at people when they do something wrong, so it doesn't tend to repeat.
But it's not only about like the play style overall, but you generally follow the rules, and I mean it's just the common sense of following the rules, like not Ramboing, shooting it to the spawn and stuff like that.
I think that's
So,
such a credit to the event though, because we played to the event standard, or at least we hope to play to the event standard, right? So you guys set the precedent, and we try and follow that. If you guys, which isn't the case, but if you guys didn't put so much care and attention on having these rules in place, then we'd have, it'd be difficult to play as we do. But it's a lot easier to play on the same standard as other people than a higher standard than the rest, So it really is a thing with the UEC as an event community as much as you guys as event as UEC units. That's kind of the character that I think the UEC encourages. So no, I appreciate that.
I mean, maybe we'll talk about like the sort of NA versus European style like a bit later, but we've definitely had like a lot of newer like units come to the UEC, and I think like after a while you do see them like shift, as you mentioned, to playing like a lot more like what we play, right? So whether that's because they want to contribute to the event, or whether they kind of look at the tactics objectively and think, oh, they probably won't work, but then they get into the event and sort of see them in action and think, oh, maybe they actually do work, so we need to kind of change our play style up a little bit.
I mean, I think the perfect example for that is now our member unit, the 3rd Alabama. I mean, let's be honest. When they first attended the event, and with our previous history with particular Russian units that are no longer part of our event, fortunately, it was very, very touch and go at first, and you could really see that within half a year, maybe 4 or 5 months of them attending and expressing interest in joining the UEC, that they put in the legwork. I mean, like they asked me for like 101 lessons in battalion drill and these kind of things, just to improve on that front. So yeah, that
they'd be one of my favorite units to play with and play against, to be fair. Like, I think they're great. I mean, one thing I do like about them is they're kind of like, they take it seriously, but at the same time, they want to have a lot of fun with the events as well. So, if we're playing next to Williamson and the boys, like, we can always have a laugh with them, which, is sort of in the spirit of the event, I think.
I mean, the enjoyment I get from playing with the 3rd Alabama is mostly because they they continuously keep committing war crimes in my presence, and I have to put Williamson up on charges. Executing prisoners, executing, like enemy officers. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I mean, but back in the
Williamson
days,
stuff.
Yeah, but back in the days when they were even the only 2nd Mississippi Battalion, I think we straight up, Williamson, we didn't like you at all in the UEC, like straight up. We didn't like them because they were. I think it was because of the old leaders, but they were playing like, like almost like a pub, I would say.
An armed mob.
Yeah, armed mob. They were constantly. We were constantly giving them warnings and stuff, but after they formed the 3rd Alabama, I think we actually rejected their acceptance to the UEC when they were the 2nd Mississippi Battalion. After they formed 3rd Alabama, I think they applied again, but they really showed us that they can improve a lot, and they did. Like, it was visible. We were kind of skeptical about accepting them into the UEC. But hey, they showed that they can work with their mistakes. They did hell of a lot of work, and they're one of the funniest bunch to play with. Like Hogg mentioned, they're serious about it, but they have fun. If you know Russian and you understand Russian, like, you're gonna have so much fun. Whenever you meet them as a friendly, when you play side by side or against them. Or when I kill Williamson, for example, when I'm leading, he always knows that it's me for some reason, and then we have a laugh about it. So yeah,
and they're a cooperative unit. I mean, I'm sure if any unit gets involved in the UEC, you'll kind of find that it's not the sort of event where you can just kind of go and do your own thing. Like, you have to cooperate with other units. I know you mentioned, Parker, the playing with us on Piper Farm. There's a lot of like back and forth and stuff. I mean, well, not necessarily, because sometimes you can kind of almost sort of cooperate without communication when you get used to each other. But I think our events definitely like favor that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I think it's always really fun to use my pidgin Russian, in the sense of I see they're a bit leaderless, and I yell, what is it, Samnoy, with me, and suddenly I have a bunch of Russians following the 18th North Carolina into a suicide charge. That's just something you gotta appreciate that. But I would throw in maybe a bit of a contentious pick for favorite units to play with. The 2nd Corps and the Lee French Legion. I think that is owed to the fact that I speak French, but and a lot of people have run into issues with them communicating and organizing battle plans, etc. But if you can pull it off with them, if you speak a bit of French, it is absolutely a joy to behold. They're definitely not perfect units. No unit is perfect. Definitely not my bunch. But it is always a joy to to really have them on the field and pull something off with them. It's really quite enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, both those units always well, actually for HRE as well, they always come with a good number of people, and the whole language thing it's the same with the 3rd Alabama. It only actually comes into play a few times where you can't physically like get something through them, but for the most part, they know exactly what they're doing. You know, they're not idiots. Like whenever we're with Williamson, for example, in fact, it was one of the last videos I was editing for our channel. It was the I think it was the Bolivar Heights readout game. We were on CSA. I think you were there as well, 8 Florida.
Yeah, we did like a big hoorah charge with the 3rd Alabama at that game.
Yeah, I was on the I was on the receiving end of that.
There you go. Because I remember we were talking about it, and we were like, "Oh, we got to try and get to the front, but we're going to take a lot of shots." And then the 3rd Alabama walks up like, "Oh, you need meat shields," and they were like, "Yep, we'll do that."
Stormtroopers have arrived.
Exactly.
That's the whole like idea of 3rd Alabama. Like Williamson and the whole 3rd Alabama is they get the jokes. They're not offended by anything. Like you literally can say the worst possible thing they can comprehend probably, and they will still laugh about it. Like I said one time that Williamson, do you have buck and ball? Duh. Meat shield? Duh. And he just went up to the front, and he got annihilated, but we got through. That's what matters, and we joked about it a lot. Like, yeah, it's great fun when they do that.
I mean, it's always very evident if you meet the 3rd Alabama on the field because A, they're big, and B, they overshoot. So it's like, wow, okay, that was a massive volley. It killed 2 guys. Yeah, it's probably Williamson.
Also about the language barrier, well, if you can call it barrier. A lot of Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians and Kazakhstani, they speak English. But they they understand English, but they don't like to speak because, as I'm sure you know, the accent, right? Like they have really soft accent, to which you cannot understand most of the words if you're not Slavic. So they understand, but they do not speak. Same with the LFL, I believe. Like a lot of LFL guys probably understand English, but they just don't speak it. That's probably the case.
You'd be surprised about the state of the French education system regarding the English language. So, I don't want to doubt them because I know that there's plenty of them who speak English. But on the other hand,
I mean, I'm sorry,
but the English education system with the French language, then, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, with any other language, I mean, come on.
Well,
the only thing I understand from the French is arrêter or something like that. It means hold or something. And and then they shall not pass, which I'm not even gonna pronounce because that would fucking sound horrible.
You ne passez pas.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I think we can start grilling you guys a bit on the UEC now. Pretty much for anybody listening, I'm sure you realize by now, but the UEC is not just an event community; it's also a group of units that have. So you have a list of member units, and you have the people that attend the event as participants, such as the SIF and whatnot. It's a very large event, and there's a lot of things to it which make it different from any other event community, not just European side or not just compared to North American side, but it's a very unique event. And I thought we could maybe probe that a little bit so you guys can understand just a little bit more about how it runs and things like that. So we've already addressed some of the things like where members come from. In fact, there's members from how many countries? There's got to be at least 4 or 5 official
the whole Europe,
national countries, but
Europe,
people from
and
all
America
over, right?
as well. Yeah, and
Exactly.
America too.
Yeah, so that's what's so cool about the UEC, especially if you're European, but not by any means specifically. There is any one of these regiments. Have a look through the members list. I'll leave a link to the server below. In fact, you can join and have a look yourself. But any one of these units will probably speak your language somewhere in them. Have a look and you'll find one. That's for sure. But one of the other things I wanted to ask about was if you guys could kind of just talk for a little bit how the event kind of functions. Like how you have the positions of chairman, how you have the kind of like the event rules. What makes the UEC unique, really, if anybody's okay to answer that.
Lemuel, you
at the
shall
end of
speak.
the day,
Yeah, Lemuel should
as the chairman of what, I don't know, a year or two, I might have some views on that. Well, I think the UEC is very different to a lot of communities in regards to it being a very strict democracy. We've got basically representatives from each unit who basically, are enfranchised insofar that they have a vote. We meet, usually every 2 weeks on a Sunday to discuss important issues, to discuss special events or upcoming special events run by other or partly run by other entities, as, for example, the re-enactment event or our battalion events. And basically just democratically decide on the issues that we want to table and how we want to deal with them, in essence. So from an event perspective, that has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. For one, in a sense, which might sound a bit weird, it's very focused on the very specific needs of the units that are represented in the United European Community, which is overall a bit more authenticity focused than some other units, maybe. That is not to say that their playstyle is wrong or anything. They paid for the game as much as we did. They have the right to play it as they choose to. But the event in general came to be, and the community in general came to be, I think, out of a need to basically establish our own event, our own little safe space, so to say, for our way of playing. I think it's fair to say that the UEC event basically was birthed from the German Volunteers event that Winkler and Paul Frank of the second, basically designed originally. And then from there, basically, we added in complexity, adapted to the changing, environment that is War of Rights, because there is, as slow as progress is in the game, there is progress. So we have to adapt our game, our gameplay, our events to the changing environment, in essence. And that's really what I think makes it not necessarily unique, but very special to me. Because despite there being a multitude of different levels of authenticity represented within the units of the UEC, we all have core standards and core values that they shall not be infringed upon, and that we just go by as the core pillars of our event, in essence. Yeah.
Awesome. That actually leads me to another question. We said earlier about how big the UEC is now, pretty much over 400 or thereabouts 400, give or take, each week. When the UEC first started, I don't know if you can remember maybe one of the first events. How many people do you think there were at that point in the UEC community or the event itself?
I mean, considering that back in the day, when we started, it was still 150 player servers, I think.
Yeah.
Like when we really got, because the UEC as it is now is the second iteration. We had like a 1.0 version of it, which was more of a loose confederacy, quote unquote. Of what, the 51st, the 39th, 52nd,
8th Florida.
yeah, so like some of the core units that are still there,
basically, yeah,
exactly. But it was just a lot less formalized. That was during the time when we had 100 player servers. So we usually, we managed to fill 1 and occasionally 2 servers for skirmish battles. But for the UEC 2.0, I think we basically started just UEC internal with, I think, 1 or 2 added units, and we always had 1 server full and occasionally a second one, but mostly just 1. So one 150 slot server, and then as the server size progressed, it mostly just basically went along with that in popularity. So 1 200 slot server, etc. And then in the last 2 years, it's kind of exploded.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to add to that, if you want to watch how the UEC basically started, Joe, I'm sure many of you know Joe Hoa. Shout out to Joe. He came from when the 8th Florida actually invited him to watch the UEC, to kind of spectate it and actually make videos about it every week. You can see how basically UEC progressed, because you can see the videos where I think he started recording when there were 150 slots, and it showed how the game progressed as well as the community. Then it showed how it progressed to 200 slots, 250, I believe, and 300. And you can see how the UEC grew as well as the game progressed. So, as Lemuel explained, you can basically watch it on, from Joe from like 4 years ago or so.
Yeah, for sure. As I mentioned earlier, I'll leave a link to Jehovah down in the description. Also, while you're there, I'll also leave a link to Kotal, because he's been recording an awful lot of UEC recently. And you can see just how big these battles are. It's often split into 2 servers now, so you can see at least half of what goes on. But
maybe just a quick request to Kotal here. Please stop mispronouncing my name. It's starting to bother me. Thank you very much.
Ah, bless him. But they are great videos from both those commentators.
Oh, they are.
They
They
and
definitely are.
Kotal, so please do, if you're watching this, then please do quickly subscribe to them while you're there, because honestly, that's probably 2 of the highlights of the War of Rights community. There's a lot of people that do recordings, but especially for the European side, which is mostly what we're concerned with today, that's probably 2 of the best, alongside all the regimental, YouTube channels, of course, themselves, but that's probably 2 of the best sources you can get of coverage of these events.
It's really a valuable tool. Like I've been whenever like the battle is over, I know after like 20 minutes of waiting, Kotal's video or Jehovah's video will be up. And I get to basically like rewatch the battle from the bird's eye perspective and see, okay, so I fucked up there. Okay, I probably shouldn't have done that. Oh, that went well. So it's also really great to like review your own performance, quote unquote, and what you could have done better or what you did well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
Lemuel, you're not the only one. He doesn't pronounce my name right either.
I found everything then much easier when I gave him blessing to call me Fip. I think he was very grateful for it.
I can't count how many times people call you Fipsht.
It's like it's actually a test.
Yeah,
Fipsht.
But to also add on Joe Over in the UEC, I think one of the unique things that we've seen in the UEC with Joe Over's videos is when I think it was initiated by Frank in the 52nd New York to get donations for the American Battlefield Trust, and Joe Over actually had Gary Edelman, who's a very famous Civil War historian.
He is.
You've seen on a lot of documentaries and stuff. He came on the stream with Joe Over and watched him. Watching one of our UEC battalion events, which was great. And I think in that context, the 52nd New York and some of the units from the UEC raised a bunch of money for the American Battlefield Trust for them to put a placard in Antietam for the 52nd New York Regiment. So that's something that's really unique within the community, and I thought it was absolutely amazing at the time.
Yeah, for
something we should definitely repeat. I mean, there's so much so many calls to fund purchases of like areas of Civil War battlefields that are available for purchase and for preservation. And I think even though we are a small community overall, I think we can still do some good there on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool, like a bunch of Europeans like raising money to preserve American battlefields, right? It shows how passionate we are about Civil War in general. So
indeed it does.
Not just Civil War, history, heritage, all these things there. Even if it's, in this case, it is contextually Civil War, but those things are all very big among most Europeans in terms of history and things. And this game is just one avenue through which I think a lot of us have discovered or furthered an interest or a love for, this time period.
Channeled that interest and passion. Yeah,
exactly. And the fact that we can do it within a game is honestly phenomenal, because for a lot of us, some of us will be lucky enough, we'll get to go to the States and visit them. I think for a lot of Europeans, the game actually as a function is probably the closest we'll get to quote unquote reenacting or potentially like immersing ourselves in these environments. So it really is.
Oh, Parker, you can come and do it with us if you want.
Yeah, like listen, literally.
Yeah, but the UEC is a great avenue for that, because a lot of us, this game is, we play both to win regularly and we play to kind of play in a certain way, right? And the UEC is the perfect environment for that in everything they do.
Well, just to add to that, for me, it's an extended tool from when I can't do reenacting in real life.
Exactly.
Same stuff, but like within the simulated context on War of Rights, so I can further from what I'm doing in the field with my guys, and I'm actually reenacting. I can do the same things in War of Rights, obviously to a bit of a limited extent, but it's it's taking real life into the game and game into real life. It's giving that extended thing. It's also very helpful for me because the reenacting season here in the UK springs from late spring to the early autumn time. So there's like a 6-month gap between it. And if you're like me, that gap is way too long. So playing War of Rights is a good stopgap between.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think
and I
it's
think-
what like motivates us to have the rules that we have in the event is because we want to maximize the immersion for everyone. There's a bit of like role play in there, which some people might think is a bit cringe, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to make the event as immersive as possible, right? So I think that's the thing for it.
For me,
To
it's
add on what
they're very decent, like-minded people.
Yeah, and to add on what James stated, in essence, the Uno reverse to that. A lot of the guys of the German volunteers that now have like picked up reenacting as a hobby, have learned so much from basically just doing things not 100% all in its entirety right. There's still like an adaptability needed basically in certain contexts, but they've taken so much from learning in the game that getting into reenactment was really, really easy. Like on our first couple of events, it was like, oh, the internet boys, that kind of an attitude. That attitude stopped after the second event when we showed up with almost 20 guys and basically had both squad level, platoon level, company level drill, and to an extent battalion level stuff basically not perfectly down. Of course, you need to translate just be the press of a button to actually performing the movement of right shoulder shift arms correctly. Of course,
yeah, it's not just pressing X,
but exactly, it helped us transition into that hobby, into that environment so much quicker than most people who join this hobby out of the blue with a tabula rasa kind of mind basically for that kind of stuff. It was really amazing to see them basically be like, what a joke, they won't last a minute. Oh, they know this stuff.
They can
no,
actually do this.
Yeah.
I know.
I think if nothing else, have a look at the videos and the stuff which we regularly see from Kotal, Jehovah, anybody in the community of the UEC, by extension the reenactment events and stuff. And if you watch those and you don't want to play the game, then I don't know what's wrong with you, to be honest. The stuff that we do in these communities is really impressive. It involves getting together a bunch of people. 300 is the capacity of the server, but it's often a lot more than that. And getting everybody on the same page for these battles and for these reenactment events and stuff, which, reenactment is a big part of the UEC as well. So I'm going to include that in this conversation. Have a look at those. And honestly, if you are even thinking about playing the game, consider getting it just for watching these videos, to be honest. And then consider, if you want, have a look at the regiments of the UEC as a first place for you, which actually transitions perfectly into the first of a few assumptions about the UEC. I think we can debunk right now. The first one of those I want to mention is assumption number 1: the UEC is only for Europeans, which we've already addressed quite extensively. But just to reiterate, absolutely not. Obviously, there is Europeans in there. There's a lot of nationalities and languages. But if you look at how many people attend the UEC now, I've already said it's close to 400, 450. It really is a massive cross-section of the world. In fact, you guys probably can speak a bit more about this than I can, if any of you want to.
Yeah, I mean, the 88th, for example, we're a non-descriptive unit. We don't have, a particular group of people that join us. We have Europeans and Americans. I mean, some of our NCOs are American, like Trojan, for example. He's an American, and he does both EU and NA events, and he really enjoys it. And I think it's just a mindset thing for USC. It's not really a geographical lock. It's more of a mindset lock.
Yeah,
if you want to play the style that we play, then you'll come and play UEC. If you want to play, a less organized style, you'll play a different event. But I
Yeah.
think it's a real mindset divide more than an actual geographical divide. We have all sorts of people.
It's what you want from the game, right? Like if you want to straight up gameplay, minimal rules, you'd opt for the NA more. If you want something more immersive, something that's based upon actually enjoying the immersivity, or what is that even word? Like, you know, the immersive
Immersion.
aspect.
Yeah,
no, it is.
Immersive aspect of the game, you would opt for the EU side of things because we like to keep the things more organized. We actually tend to play more for the immersion, above all. Like you know, obviously we are playing for the objective and whatnot, but we're just trying to go from the going only to the objective, actually to go to the objective with like immersion and stuff. Same as Wesley said, we have quite the NA guys in our unit, and it's just what you want from the game, really. They played in the NA, obviously, because they're from America, and they said they do not like it because it's just basically playing the game without any immersive aspects, and they wanted something else. So they enjoy the EU, and the only thing that's really holding them back is the time difference, like 6 hours or so, I believe.
Yeah.
And
I think
yeah,
something that is maybe it's just not discussed enough in the community, but I've heard this from a couple of like non-UEC Americans, basically from units and members of units outside of our small circle of fellow idiots who decide to do this as a second life. That there seems to be this perception that basically because we stick more to notions of authenticity and role play, etc. Like we necessarily look down on what other communities do with their event. And I think that's a bit of a misconception. It's just like an expression of preference. I mean, as I stated earlier, if you bought the game and you enjoy the aspect of it, basically as a like as an aggressive unit to aggressively charge down everything in your path, that is your right to do so. You know, you've paid for that right to do so, and it doesn't make your event like qualitatively less good. It's really, as Danny put it, just a mindset essentially. I think that is also a bit reflected in the general demeanor in which a lot of European communities in, for example, Mount and Blade Napoleonic Wars and Holdfast and North and South as the American Civil War counterpart here to Wolf, right? The OG back in the day. That it always has kind of crystallized a little bit with the Europeans liking things a bit more structured, a bit more organized. But again, you know, I've taken part in plenty of US events across different games and had my fun time with them. Haven't had necessarily bad experiences with US events, but I've just always preferred to focus a little bit on the more down to earth and grounded formation gameplay aspect that we kind of try to offer here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, as a unit, the 6th, and actually some of the UEC units as well, I'm thinking, I know the 20th Georgia is a perfect example of units that play across both time zones. There really is nothing wrong with either side. It is simply what the guys have just said here. What do you prefer? And you don't have to pick one. You can even play across both. Like, my time is 50-50 these days, EU NA events. And I think the general description I can give from playing both is, as the guys have said, the UEC and similar European events tend to be a little bit more structured, potentially a little more rules, but they are a lot more immersive in the sense that you really see the direct outcome of forming a line of battle, engaging people, and seeing who comes out on top. The flip side being the NA event is a lot more competitive. It gets your heart racing, adrenaline is pumping, and you get into a lot more engagements, and it's a lot of there's a lot going on, right? It's really constant interaction. Neither side is better than the other. It's simply what you prefer, and you don't have to pick one. You can very easily play across both those events, and they're both equally good. So definitely don't think that either, as we said, the European side is not one thing and the NA side's another. It really is. Just get involved, and I think the best thing for this community, doesn't matter what event you play in, just get involved with a regiment, the UEC is a great source of regiments to go for and find one for yourself, but get involved and find one.
Yeah, if I may, though.
Yeah.
I think there's another option again, of course, and that's the public servers.
Yeah.
So there is the difference between those two styles of regimental play, but there's also the public servers, which since I started playing regimentally, I've found very difficult to go back to. I don't like being in the service anymore. I think that might be important to people looking to have the game and play it, because you can play your pub servers for a while, but you'll have an entirely different perspective if you go regimental.
Yeah, for sure. Like the public servers will always there's always at least one public server which has normally the majority of the player base. But what you'll notice when you get the game is most evenings, especially towards the weekends, there'll be a whole load of servers with a little padlock icon on them. And they'll normally have the name of an event in the title or something, and those are the closed events which these regiments and, for example, the UEC, they set up these servers to play in a certain way and for the sake of the event. So definitely don't be restricted by what you experience in the public servers. In fact, if you're in the public servers, there's a 99% chance you'll see somebody as part of a regiment there, and ask them if you like, or they'll probably ask you, to be honest. But find out about joining a regiment from there.
Always on the hunt.
Exactly. And as I said, I'll leave a link to the UEC server down below. So if you want to start there, that is a great place to do it. You can see through the UEC units, you can see through the UEC participants as well, and go from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, we all have our unique descriptors on the UEC Discord, where you can see our who we are, who runs us, what our members are like, and all that sort of stuff. So it's
for sure. Everyone has something to offer. In the UEC especially, every regiment has something which is great about them, and get involved. That really is the best thing we can suggest to you guys.
One thing to maybe add to the to the discussion of NA versus EU, I don't think there is and the need for a versus here is the only thing that I would say when like new units try to approach the United European Community, in their pursuit to maybe participate in the event, is it sounds maybe a bit rude, but like respect the elders. Like we've set this event up to be our event, to be the event for those people who think like us. And again, if you don't think like us on these aspects, that's perfectly reasonable. But then this might just not necessarily be your event. We're always open for feedback and improving the event, but and we've had this a bit more recently where newer units join from both Europe and across the Great Pond, and they suddenly expect our event to change for them on a whim, basically without us having more than maybe a month or so of playtime with them. And we are a bit slower in that fashion. We're not necessarily slow to trust, but we like to get to know people. Like we've played with the 88th and Parker's units in one way or another, and the Second Corps, the French Legion, for years and years and years on end. So it's really more a community of friends than a community of competitors, basically, in this space. That's not really what we're here for. We're here to have a good time, and interacting with history in our own little way. It doesn't really matter, whether we win or lose. That's completely beside the point. All I want from our event is to have Danny dying next to me and giving me his letters to his wife so that I can pass them on. And me then again court-martialing Williamson for having shot him, after he surrendered.
And it comes back to the community again, ultimately.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
That is the main thing you'll notice with the UEC. Notice the letter at the end. It's a community. It's not just an event. There is a group of guys here which, I'm obviously a little bit not so much in. I'm not a UEC member, but there is a group of guys that have played together for so long that sure. There is a group of guys that have played together for so long now. We know each other on a much deeper level than just jumping in a game and stabbing each other to death each time. I think in the European events like UEC, quick cheeky mention of Hater in there as well, but other events like that, we really do build relationships on a very deep level. and it's a great community to get involved with. Whether you're new to the game, I think it's a great place to start. There's so many guys here that have a wealth of knowledge, not just of the game, but of the Civil War period itself, which will really help you maybe find a passion of your own, in fact. You'll get
Shout out to James here.
Exactly. Mr. Wesley is a great example of that. He's been in the game since it started, and he's a reenactor himself, leads a unit himself. He brings together those two passions, gaming and history.
Teacher, I mean, it's all going for me.
Exactly.
It is inevitable.
Yeah, for sure. Another little assumption, which actually I think you just mentioned, Lemuel, but we'll quickly go over. Assumption number 2: UEC regular events are more about reenacting than they are about competitive gameplay. Now that's a bit of an open one, which personally I think there's a very easy way to distinguish why the UEC is different in this regard. I think the UEC end result is less important than the winning and losing is really not the be all and end all that we're going for in these events. In fact, some of my most enjoyable games in the UEC are lost, and I'm proud of that fact. To be honest, I don't think there's many events where you lose and you go, Jesus, that was actually the best time.
I think that's because you can take it like UEC. I mean, obviously we are going for the objective of the game, which is to capture the point, or capture the flag, whatever. Always the flag. Kept the point. But the way you get to that, right? Like, I mean, on the other events, you're just going straight for the point, for example, or try to kill as many enemies as possible. If you set that objective, obviously, or try to play it competitively, like not going for early cap, for example, because of this, and this. And the UEC, what the UEC does is, yes, we go for the points, but the way we do is totally different from any other. I think the only HRE is doing it basically almost on the UEC level, on par. So, like, even if you lose, you can still have fun because of the how can I interpret
the process of it all, essentially?
Yeah,
like
the process of it.
You're not just attacking an objective. I think within the UEC, it is very, very clear that you, as your individual unit, let's say an average unit size of maybe 20 men, that at the end of the day, you are as your own little thing, as your own little entity, have actually relatively little impact on the outcome of the overall battle. Like, if you throw your unit into the meat grinder continuously, sure, you probably will by just completely, losing tickets. But it is rather more important to, coordinate, send messengers, figure out a line of attack, and then try to execute it as well as possible, rather than, just playing for yourself or on your own. So I think on that aspect,
In
that
fact,
might be a point where
when that happens, it generally messes things up, doesn't it?
Sorry?
When that happens, when one unit does go off on its own, that's generally what loses the thing.
Yeah.
I'd say in the UEC, you've got like a lot of very experienced and very smart guys like running these regiments. And okay, competition might not be the most important thing in the game or in our community, but if you make a mistake on the field, like other units on the other team are going to punish you for it. For example, like, if you guys shoot your volley off too early, like another unit is going to get in close and like blast you from a short distance, right? And that's going to lead to your unit getting done in, basically. So I think you've got to be very switched on when you play these events. I think it can be a little bit stressful leading company in the UEC at times, I think.
Yeah.
Also,
especially knowing you're being filmed.
Yeah. Also the fact that the UEC event as a whole, every battle is not perfect, and what I mean by that is not like balance is not very well done or something because of misreported numbers, but fog of war, which a lot of units actually don't expect at the UEC because they think like we use Steam chat, whatever. No, we use messengers, please. And imagine that if you have a Steam chat, right? Like you say that hey, the regiment this push the right side because they don't have reinforcements. In UEC, you have to send a messenger or go there by yourself as a messenger one. And imagine getting shot halfway through going to the regiment. And if you get shot, you obviously don't deliver the message. So your unit or your allies can just stand there and not actually use the initiative that you gained because you forced the enemy regiment away. And these small imperfect things is what makes the UEC for me really enjoyable. Because even as I go away from my unit, I say, okay, I'll go there by myself. Hogg, you will take a lead for a while. I'm going to my unit, or well, to the ally unit. I'm going there. I'm gonna try to ask them kindly, politely, if it's possible, to move from reserves to actually help us because
Is that
we're
really what
getting
you say
shred to
then?
pieces. Sometimes.
I
Getting
mean,
shredded
mostly
to
he just
pieces.
cusses me out for not supporting him properly, but that's
Yes.
all right.
Yeah, that's what I
Yes.
thought.
And well, I get shot halfway. I die, and obviously my unit is gonna get shredded to pieces. Hogg needs to fall back, and the unit stays in the reserve because of the whole fog of war. They don't know what's happening, and this is what's beautiful about it as well.
I think it really boils down to this age-old argument. Oh, what would have happened if they would have had a machine gun in the American Civil War? While the true question should have been, what would have happened if Lee and Longstreet and Jackson had walkie-talkies?
Yeah,
I mean, like if you
sure,
think
yeah.
about it, that would have made much more of a difference than having a couple of machine guns in the ranks. So
I think
that's really like, yeah. Go ahead, James.
No, I think the element I like about it not being so competitive and more about the strategic and tactical elements is that you have to think. As a commander, you have to think, okay, Lemuel's guys are moving in front of me from right to left, and they're coming up the side. Do I abandon this position? Do I move to a different position to try and tackle, the 18th coming up on the left or whatever? Or do I send a messenger off and tell Parker that the 18th is coming on my left? So I need I think it's more immersive with the way that you need to do things.
Yeah.
Compared to like, oh, there's a load of guys, in Steam or TeamSpeak or whatever. Oh, there's a load of guys on our left. Everyone should now go onto the left of the map. It's
much about text, isn't it, of how you can react. Like if you don't actually know, so for example, you see a big melee ahead of you, and naturally your first instinct is jump in, help your friends. But you don't actually know what's going on elsewhere. The only thing you know is what's happening in front of you until you hear information from elsewhere. And I think that's what's most exciting about these events is you don't actually the only real way you know you're winning is one, you can see a small portion of the field in front of you, or two, you look at the ticket bar. Aside from that, you've actually got no idea what's going on for most of these events. You find out like through messengers and stuff, and that's what's so cool about it.
And there's this idea that preservation
amazing moments.
Yeah, there's an idea of preservation. Oh, sorry, Lemuel.
Yeah. No. It's all good. As you say, it's this act of preservation essentially, because you will have moments as they would have had in the Civil War where you're like, why is Major Hogg not coming up to my aid on my left flank while I have repeatedly sent messengers? Well, the messenger has fucking died. He got lost. The unit has drifted further to the left and has lost touch with, with the right flank or whatever. And of course, you will have those moments of frustrations where you're like, oh God, what happened here? And then you look over it and you think, oh yeah, I mean, that's pretty realistic. That probably would have happened. And on the other hand, is it like when it comes together, this is not supposed to put me on a pedestal, but like in the last battle that we fought on, what was it? Hatchet's Attack? No, Reno's Fall? I don't know. South Mountain map. Basically, Confederates kept getting thrown out of their position. That we costly we took at quite the cost from the Blue Boys, because we always we acted on our own. We had a general plan to push across the right flank, the Union left, sweep them out of the forest, push towards the wall, take it, be done with it. Worked halfway, we pushed them out of the forest, and then everyone stopped and did basically their own thing. So it led to a lot of people dying. So in the last 10 minutes of the match, I ran across the entire map. I told everyone we will push at this point. We will move at this point in unison and sweep forward. And then seeing that entire thing executed, every unit sweeping forward, the brigades of Pickett's division stepping off, that sends goosebumps down your spine. And you're like, in this moment, they will not be able to deal with this. Because suddenly you have 5-6 units all at once adding their weight to the fight, putting so much pressure on them that they will break. These moments are amazing.
Yeah, we had a very.
The-
Sorry, Danny.
Go ahead. Go.
I'll very quickly say my points so Danny can speak. I mean, we had a very similar experience in Parkour this in HRE. Was it last week when we were playing Nicodemus Hill and
Oh yeah, I was
we were
at Manate, I was
fighting-
watching it. Yeah.
we were fighting on the right for a long time, and we seemed like we weren't getting anywhere. We were going to lose against the Confederates, and all we did is came together. We withdrew from the fighting, came together, figured out a plan to go on the left, and we won within like 5 minutes.
It
against the
really
Confederates
was
by going-
a perfect Uno reverse card. I was
It
watching
was
it from
lit.
above, and I was thinking to myself, these guys, respectfully, what the fuck are you doing? And then you all pulled back, you actually regrouped and talked to each other, you pushed left, and yeah, you won the field and literally flipped it and capped on breaking within like, I think like 8 minutes or something.
Yeah.
It was a perfect example of why events like the UEC and HRE in this case. In fact, Lemuel, I think you said it earlier, one unit in this game is... One unit means nothing. You don't actually have enough impact by yourself. It's only really when you do your actions in tandem with another unit, or units really, that you get these effects come and you can actually see what happens when you work together, which is what brings this assumption full circle. I don't think the assumption is correct saying that it's more about reenacting than competitive. I think the thing that is really important with this assumption is the UEC importance is more on working together and win or lose, work together, than about the competitive aspect of it. I think that's the distinguishing factor for me, at least.
It can be a nightmare sometimes for your guys, like your privates, because they're thinking, why are we doing this? Like, we're getting done in here or whatever, you know, but we're holding an important part and just buying time for the rest of our team. You know, you get some kind of like first Minnesota at Gettysburg moment, you know, where like, you know, you're having to put yourself in a bad position and kind of extend yourselves, or you're you're the unit that goes forward first, takes the volley so your friends can push in behind you and make the push, right? And you know, that just all plays into the immersion of the event and you know, the sort of thing we're going for.
That's basically you've described the specialized role of the 18th North Carolina whenever we work with Williamson, because sure, like individual units don't necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things. If you are a big unit, you might matter a little bit more, but even a big unit led poorly and without coordination with the rest of the team will get cut to ribbons by smaller ones. I've with my 12 guys, I've murdered Williamson's 30. Same with the AGL, and they have murdered us in turn with much smaller sizes when we were bigger. So like it really boils down to what you've described there, Hogg. Yeah.
Also, I like whenever some units in the UEC say that they carried the game.
Yeah, that's always a funny moment into the game. You can see some of the units that start typing,
teammates.
you know, this
yeah,
unit dominated or whatever.
Yeah, they don't realize that by not having teammates, we are creating openings, right? Like if you know good unit, that a good unit actually creates openings for others. Whatever it is, holding the flank, it's supporting you, whatever. And whenever I see that certain regiment types in the game chat that they carried the game, I'm like, bro, I just cringe a bit. But anyway,
I mean, what was that battle we fought recently on what is it called? Cook's Countercharge, I think it is.
Yeah.
Where basically like we were constantly in your flank. Did we do a lot of damage? No, probably not. I don't think we did, despite our 20 guys. We did some damage, but we kept a lot of pressure on the flank, which gave everyone else the opportunity to carry the field with the bayonet. And at the end of the day, you know, who really then is the winner of it all? It's the team, not me having done the distracting work, not necessarily the individuals who then pushed the point with the bayonet. It wouldn't have worked if neither of these things would have happened. So,
also
look at it as a whole, you know,
about the what Parker said, the goosebumps and stuff. It's I never had a game where I basically screamed. Screamed. I told Williamson in Russian that we will support him on the right flank because that was the readout. Actually, we have a video of that. I never had an experience like this before playing War of Rights. Is when I said we're gonna go with you. So he instantly made his guys stand up, on their feet, charged their bayonet. We were screaming in Russian "Ura!" Somebody played historical music in the background, and everybody just screamed at once "Ura!" We were screaming the entire time we were running down the redoubt and charged 2 regiments of Garibaldi Guard, or how they're called, the Italians. And that was such an
Gucci gang.
Yeah, Gucci gang. And that was such an amazing moment that I don't think you can experience in a lot of games, actually, or like many, many events. And it was just something out of this world. And it's really good memory, holy fuck.
I mean, doesn't that circle perfectly to the question that I think we didn't cover in the beginning? You know, like what moment was the best that we've had in the game?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can do that now if you'd like to. Yeah,
Oh, there's so many.
I mean, let's have Hogg finish his line of thought first.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, I mean, obviously we've been kind of talking about like the rules in the UEC, and I think there is a certain misconception that like the way we have the rules in the UEC means, all the units are kind of forced to play it in the same style or forced to play in the same way. But I completely disagree with that. Like, I think every unit in the UEC has its own personality, to the point when, Joe Hover, who watches our events, he presses T sometimes, but he can say, oh, that's 8th Alabama, that's 3rd Alabama, that's 8th Florida, that's 18th North Carolina. And it's the same thing for us on the field, right? Just by looking how units move and looking how they play, like we can kind of tell without knowing, like, oh, that's Williamson's guys, or that's like Lemuel's guys, or whatever, right? So, I think that's like something that's great about the UEC events too.
I feel like the 2 bodies of the NYV are becoming quite distinctive on the battlefield now too.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, every unit in that sense, has their strength. Like, if I want a unit to defend a point until there is not a single man standing, I will place the 56th Virginia and I will place the 52nd New York. Yeah. If I want someone to assail, enemy breastworks with the bayonet while howling and screaming madness, I will send for 3rd Alabama and 8th Alabama. And if I want basically to do a bit of both, of shooty and stabby on the Confederate team, I will call for the 8th Florida and will send my guys along to the entire party. Like it's not just that we have to play in this manner. We want to play in this manner. I think that's really, if you want to try our event, probably you want to play in this manner too. Because otherwise, why are you there? There's other events that do it differently. If you want to come join ours, there's a good chance that you enjoy the type of gameplay that we want to do in the first place.
Yeah, that's the misconception. It's we play with restrictions, but not really. We're playing because the restrictions make it
so much more
immersive.
It enhances the game. It doesn't detract from the game. Yeah, it enhances the game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially like we've just covered our basic events. Like, I mean, we haven't even looked at like the HRE UEC corporation of the reenactment events, which are, what people think probably of the UEC, like scripted and battalions clashing at each other. And like, even there, of course, that's not going to be competitive. Hell no. I mean, how the hell are we going to make, the assault on Mary's Heights competitive? It was butchery, right? But on the other hand, you'll have those moments on either side. We played, what was it? Little Round Top with the 20th Maine against the 15th Alabama. We've played Mary's Heights. We've played the Battle of Prospect Hill as part of the Battle of Fredericksburg. And also just a bunch of basically generic, quote-unquote, ACW battles in the sense of we pitched battalions against each other on Antietam maps and whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, those are very specific. Not every unit is going to be into that shit, but you don't have to. They're only like a small component of our like larger repertoire of things that we can do.
Yeah, I think the community aspect of the UEC definitely kind of enables a lot of the reenactment and battalion events to happen. I think, it'd be quite difficult to do that if we didn't have such a close-knit community of, like-minded people who get along with each other.
Yeah, 100%. Do we want to do a quick? I don't. It's probably gonna be hard for you guys because there's way too many to choose from. do you have a crowning moment from your War of Rights experience so far? Like one moment where you think, you know what, that's like the pinnacle of War of Rights, either within the UEC or just in general, to be honest.
I dimly recalled one. Not even sure which event it was. I'm specifically not sure what map it was, but it had trees and rocks in it.
That slims it down. That slims it down.
It's in a Kato video, and right at the end of it, I timed it perfectly, rushing on to the point at the very last moment. And Kato's not sure if we're going to make it, and he says, and Fipsht proved me wrong. That was one of my crowning moments. Watching that video specifically made me think, shit, I actually nailed it. So I'm quite pleased with that one.
I'm going to have to rewatch every video now to find which map you're talking about. So thanks for
All right.
Yeah, I know exactly what my favorite moments in War of Rights was, and it was one of the HRE reenactment events. It was the Battle of Prospect Hill that I mentioned, alongside with the Fredericksburg event. And funnily enough, it brought us a shit ton of recruits because of the video getting more and more traction recently.
that's
because
awesome.
it had these amazing moments in it of me, of basically, Union battalions coming across the open ground and every officer screaming, "Infantry in the open! Hey, fire!" Like them charging down the hill, and like the very last push when we had retaken that fence line, me having to order Williamson to refuse to flank immediately, and then while he's redeploying, basically all hell breaking loose on the flank, and me having to pitch in the entire battalion just to plug that gap. Absolutely bloody amazing. Like I get goosebumps thinking about it. And the thing is, like, while this strays beyond War of Rights, it doesn't stray beyond the community. Like we've had this moment in Battlecry, as much as people don't necessarily like this game in the events that we've hosted, and also in Scourge of War. There's so many cool American Civil War games out there that you can have fun with this community and have great moments with. We beat the shit out of each other for I think 5 hours on stream in like a 30,000 versus 30,000 battle in Scourge of War. Fucking amazing,
Right,
and all because we found friends who are as weird and strange and lovable as everyone in this channel here, and have basically made this thing that is the UEC and its larger community.
Yeah, 100%. I think the reenactment events we spoke extensively on in the last episode, it was everybody enjoyed one of those moments from specifically 2023 above all others. But yeah, the collaboration between UEC and the HRE is truly one of the best things I think you can either watch or, even better, witness yourself, get involved with one of these units. And honestly, it's hard to put like an assurance on anything, but I assure you, you will not regret coming to a reenactment event. They are really some of the most epic moments you'll ever see in gaming. Not just in War of Rights, in gaming. It's a testament to, again, shout out Andrew Walsh here, hero, legend. Maybe one day I'll marry you. But no, he's a really amazing dude to put the effort into these scripts, and then we carry it through.
And it just adds that slight extra. I mean, already we like the immersion of our events, but that slight extra immersion on top. I mean, we're talking about crowning moments. The time I can't even remember which one it is now because they blur into my mind because they're so fun. I was battalion commander for one of them, and I had 4 companies that I was leading, and it was just that moment where everything came together. The companies came into line and they were fighting our part of the battle. And I just thought, this is it. This is
that was Gettysburg, because you were 88th was the first company and we were your last company. I remember that. We had the 4 companies at the Gettysburg event.
Yeah, Gettysburg then. And it was just all came into place. And it was like, this is great. The only way this could get better is if I was at a reenactment IRL in the States or whatever. But this is the crowning moment of being able to put these guys on the field and effectively command them together as this great unit.
I mean, I know what I'm gonna do after this. I'm basically after this this podcast, I'm definitely gonna rewatch some of the videos that the 18th has made over the last couple of months, years, whatever, of the reenactment events, because they were dope. They were just dope.
I
Yeah,
think there was some
100%.
great moments from the Antiem campaign, like about a year or two
Oh,
ago as
God,
well. I mean,
yeah, that
I
was
think there
good
was some
stuff.
problems with the campaign. Like, obviously, it kind of favoured the Rebs because they're defending more often. But I think there was just some amazing moments. I think you were leading, was it the 18th, 3rd Alabama, and 1st VA with Preacher? And
The unwavering sentinels.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, that was
Second
great because
battalion.
I mean, I should explain. We basically kind of just did a normal event, but we had like a general per team or a commanding officer per team, and then 3 battalions on each team made up of like 2 to 3 companies. So, like, you know, it was kind of fun, like leading our battalion next to like Lemuel's battalion with, you know, Danny sending runners off and kind of like, you know, losing his mind trying to organize everything on our team. You know, I think there was some epic moments from that.
I think that's when that's when me and the 52nd New York first properly, like, I'd say became friends, to be honest, because after that, in all the reenactment events, we tied in together, because I think one of the first battalion events, when obviously, you know, we attended as a participating unit, not as a member, but you put us with the 52nd and I can't remember the 3rd company. It might have actually been the 88th, I'm not 100% sure.
Pretty sure it was the 88th.
Yeah, but I remember distinctly Frank kind of looking at me like, how's he going to do? You know, like, how's this going to go? And it went so well, and we had so many jokes and stuff along the way that for the next, like, 2 reenactment events, we were in their battalion with Frank at the helm, and then, like, me, like, right next to him, ready to take over if he needed me. And, you know, that's when, like, we built that friendship, and that was all through the UEC, you know, through that battalion event. I remember Cook's countercharge. We formed up on, like, the crest of the hill, kind of overlooking the cornfield, and we started firing down by company into the corn, and it was amazing. It was so beautiful.
That was a difficult one for the Rebs that day, which was good.
I was going to say, I don't want to brag, but I remember it was incredibly effective.
Yeah.
As you said, it did favour the defending teams in these battalion events, and for Cooks, which is normally obviously play at any other event, it's a CSA win 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
But that battalion event, the layout of the map is pretty good if you take out the ticket advantage and whatnot. So that was a phenomenal event all through the UEC for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
battalion drills, they're good as well.
Absolutely. Oh, that's another thing as well. The battalion drills through the UEC. That's impressive.
I think that's really just another thing that keeps getting mentioned, and it's just a variety of stuff that we offer. Again, like not even across just one game. Different stuff here and there, like a lot of a massive variety of different games, like game modes basically that we do. You know, the historical rules that we apply in our baseline event, the battalion events, the battalion drills, the reenactment events. Hogg's working on a new campaign. There's always at the end of the day something new to just keep a game that admittedly has gotten a bit stale with some of its content. You know, it's refreshing. You know, it's refreshing. And I mean, like, I think most people know that the 18 for the longest time, the last 2 years, was very small. I mean, we're 10 guys? But just because things have gotten, you know, more interesting recently, we've gotten a lot of members back. So that's, you know, I mean, we were in one of the last battles with 27 guys?
Yeah, it's good.
So, yeah.
Let's talk about HRE last Sunday. 30 what, Parker?
Oh, I don't know what happened there. We had 30.
So is that?
I don't know.
So basically, you're telling me that the excuse that you keep coming up with for not joining the UEC
anyway,
is
we're going to call an end to the
podcast.
It's getting late. No, that was a misnomer. I don't know what happened last K3, but even UEC, we're pretty consistent. I think as the joke Venom always says, he's like 15, yeah, and then we normally go up. Actually, to be honest, it's normally 15 to 20 for us, which, you know, I know we've gone through a number of different formations, but you know, the 6th is not even a year old. Be a year in May, and you know, the UEC is a big part of our schedule and what we enjoy doing in War of Rights. So it's kind of cool that I've been playing now for about 4 years, and the one thing which I think I've always done, like since I started playing, pretty much, is the UEC. Everything else has changed a bit here and there. You know, the units I've been in, the rest of the event schedule as well, but the UEC's always been there.
Keeping the course.
Exactly. Even as a non-member unit, it's always been there, and you guys have always been very welcoming and a good bunch of guys to have a laugh with every Friday and Saturday.
Happen.
Well,
So, putting on the agenda for 2 Sundays' time, how to get Parker into the UEC.
I might be adminning in HRE, sorry. Busy.
Operation Shoehorn.
But you know what? I think that's that wraps it up pretty well for today. There's one final thing I'd like to do though, before we go, and this is really for anybody listening who maybe is either got the game and not in a regiment, or is thinking about getting the game and is just maybe on the fence, unsure about really making that next step. Because you guys have such a wealth of experience and come from such a wide cross section, I'd like to ask you the same question we ended with on the last podcast, which is if you could say one thing to people that are looking at buying the game or jumping into the regimental community, what would it be? Don't all jump at once.
Absolutely try the spec.
I thought we were going to be asked
At least-
individually. So I've
Oh,
No,
well, we
no.
can do it individually if you like, or just
At
anyone go
least
for
dip a
it.
toe regiment into the regimental gameplay at least once, because if you only experience the pub matches, you won't get any sense of the potential of the game, as it were, and the community that lies behind it.
At company and community level, I would say that a bit of a broken mess of a game becomes, if a flawed, it becomes a masterpiece. I am probably one of the more harsh critics of the game in itself. I think I've had one of the most liked quote unquote negative reviews of the game for a while, which I changed recently to positive against all my better judgment. Simply because, taken at face value, the enjoyment you can get out of this game with a larger community that, there's many of them, is very difficult to quantify. I think there is few games in its price range and also in just its genre that do what this game does, despite its flaws. So get into regimental play, look for a nice community, no matter which one it is, and have a blast with this game.
Yeah, I'd add to that, if you're wanting to experience it, there's plenty of units that'll give you the rundown of how to get into it. We've had people that have joined us and said, oh, this is really interesting. I thought it was XYZ, and now I've had this opinion of it. So if you're thinking about it, definitely take the plunge into regimental play, because it's just another level, another, step up into sort of this game and the community that surrounds the game.
Yeah.
Sure.
As Shia LaBeouf would say, just do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you may discover a new passion you never knew you had. Like, I knew a little bit about the Civil War from some of my studies at university. I found the game partly as a result of that and just for YouTube videos and stuff, but it's only when I joined a unit that I really started doing things I never thought I'd do. I said in the last episode, people still think I was lying or don't believe me, but I'm an incredibly shy person in real life. The game and the communities that I'm in this game allow me to be something a lot more than I thought I'd be able to, like lead a unit and speak to people regularly, even host this podcast. It's something which is very, trust me, nobody in my immediate family or friend circle that I know from in real life would expect that. And that's a credit to especially the communities that we have in things like the UEC. And again, I really want to emphasize the fact the UEC ends with a C. It's a community. It's something a lot more than just an event where we, it's not a battle simulator. We don't just get together and fight and then that's it. All these guys in VC right now I've known for years, and they're a really great bunch of people. You can learn a lot from them, and I say become really great friends with a lot of them. Maybe except Lemuel. No, I'm kidding. No, they're a really great bunch of people. And
I mean, if you weren't going to make the joke, I was going to do
exactly.
it. So,
I had to jump the gun. I knew it was coming. But no, seriously.
Preemptive strike.
Sorry, I had to mute that. I had a phone call halfway through that. Did anybody else have any final suggestions for anybody new?
I mean, when I started, I joined the pubs first, and but I knew what I wanted, really. I knew that I wanted to go for the regimental things, but you never go wrong for trying the pubs first to get the hang of the game, really.
Yeah.
And but when you play pub, you only get the, let's say, I don't know, half of the game experience, really. If we join the regimental, you have bigger player, or much larger player scale. You have other options to do. you're in a different community that you can explore and stuff like that. But I would try pubs first, and then when you get ready, I would go for the regimental stuff.
There's also a gigantic reduction in racism and toxicity when you join regimental stuff.
Yeah, that does tend to happen. Yeah, for sure. Don't try. I think that's a very good piece of advice. Try the pubs. If you're happy even just playing in pubs, absolutely. To be honest, the main thing that not just this episode, but this whole podcast, this whole YouTube channel, in fact, is to further this game. So if it brings people to the game, that's great. But I truly believe, and I think everyone else here does as well, that your experience in game is multiplied in every good measure imaginable when you join a regiment and you play with people both inside War of Rights and outside.
Yep.
And it's the social aspect as much as it is the gaming aspect, to be honest. You'll make new relationships and friends with people that you would never normally speak to. There's I said this on the last episode as well, actually. There's no context where I would normally be speaking to half these people in New Zealand, in the United States, in Israel, in the Philippines, like all in the same VC at the same time. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, and the social aspect advances you further with friendships and community. I mean, like now we've got 7 people in a VC watching a film together.
Exactly.
We have community game nights, we have all sorts of things, and then we play our events together as well. It's not just regimental play doesn't stop at playing the game. And Lemuel said this multiple times by saying playing other games and XYZ. It really brings a sense of friendship, community, and all that sort of stuff as well.
So, something that really shows what kind of a community we are is as the 18th, we watched Gods and Generals and just tore it to shreds for 5 hours. It was an amazing bonding experience.
Bonding, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, there's nothing
We've done
better.
similar. We've done similar for Gettysburg as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at that fake beard.
Oh, God.
That uniform is probably made from cloth made in Pakistan.
And on that note, in all seriousness, I think that's a great note to end on. Get involved in these communities, and honestly, you won't regret it. This episode is focused on the UEC. I thank all of you for coming today. Hogg, Danny, Lemuel, Wesley, and Fip, of course. Always a pleasure, actually, hanging out, whether it's in-game or not. All of the regiments here today, we have the 8th Florida, the 18th, and 88th. I'll put links to them in the channel description. And of course the 6th, can't forget. I'll put links to them all in the description. Most importantly, I'll also put a link to the UEC server down there. Even if you just want to watch what happens, you can check out YouTube videos that are posted by people like I've mentioned, Kotal, Jehovah, and you can see the server, you can see what happens, and then hopefully you'll have a look and you'll want to jump in with somebody. Likewise, if your unit's interested in joining, check out the server, speak to anybody you see here or anybody else in this server who's a member, and they will be glad to help you hopefully get involved. And I'll see you there myself, if so, which would be awesome. So once more, thanks everybody for coming. Until the next one.
Thank you, Parker.
We'll see what happens.
Thanks,
Take
Parker.
care.
Thanks, Parker.
Oh no, awesome. It's all fine. Thank you all for coming. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Huzzah. See you there.
Real!